So amidst that kind of thing, I think there are also new kinds of ties and self-expression spawned by Fukushima. Some of you know about the Skilled Veteran Service Corps of retirees with technical backgrounds who want to be able to go into Fukushima to spare younger workers exposure. It's also the people in the SPCF are doing this out of, many of them, you know, they rode the tide of the Japanese economic miracle, and it's a reflection of, for many of them, of what that economic miracle was worth. And the people like Ruiko Muto, when we talked earlier about the lack of accountability and liability, who are demanding that TEPCO and other responsible individuals be charged for this. The Japanese judicial system is complicated, so it's a multi-step process. But on the one hand, that they be charged, but also as part of joining this legal effort, the effort to talk to people, what she's told me about, from people who, from the inner part of Fukushima, who feel safe and who feel that they are really been victimized by the harmful rumors, another kind of double speak, and not really damaged, and by talking to them to get them to understand that they too are victims, right? To do some of the secrecy that one has maintained to oneself. So there's general election coming up on December 16th. I hope you will watch the results to see what happens. I think that the demonstrations over the summer were so successful that there's an enormous desire on the part of many to clamp down, to see we simply cannot allow nuclear power to be questioned. So in that sense, again, we're back to nuclear power. It's a fundamental challenge to democracy. So my question, how do we redeem life, this life on this degraded planet, and still our only home? How do we redeem life, individual and social, in this place that we have hurt so deeply? But which, when I say we, I want to say we are not all equally responsible, and for which future generations are not responsible at all. Thank you very much.
We'll take about 3 questions. We got about 5 or 6 minutes. Then we're going to hear from David Kraft. Ooh, David Kraft.
Is there an anti-nuclear party that has risen up from the masses that is running in this next federal election?
There's a new party, the Future Party, that emerged last week. You know, I was saying to someone that we just had a presidential election, right, in which I hear $6 billion was spent by both sides, and there's a part of me that says, what if the $6 billion had been spent on public education or housing, you know, school, health? In Japan, educations are very short. They're announcing that you have like 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. And it's, both of these models of elections are absurd. So the new party was just established last week. They are ahead of the others, and the head is a 62-year-old governor of Shiga Prefecture, which is in central western Japan. Communist Party and Social Democrats and some other splinter groups are supporting, but this party has stated as its position, ending reliance on nuclear power in 10 years. So we'll see how that goes. The Democratic Party, the ruling party, so-called, the Prime Minister Noda has waffled on this one way or the other, and now I think he's kind of getting back to saying in 30 years. But it remains to be seen how, it is an issue I think that the electorate are keenly interested in, but whether in 2.5 weeks sufficient organizations, especially as campaign laws have become more and more and more stringent to a degree I can't believe. We'll see how much organizing can take place.
I'm kind of going to ask this the same question that was asked earlier today. But we did see a movie about people who were organic farmers in Japan, and it was really very sad. But is there some kind of biological remediation? I mean, if you eat mushrooms or algae or something, or bacteria, I mean, you would have to do something with the mushrooms after they ate up all the, I mean, that's just assuming that they sucked up the radiation, but is there any kind of work with that at all?
I think there are a lot of experiments. I don't know anything that is substantially reliable. People do all, there was for a period relying on sunflowers, right, and we still see them, and I think they're cheering, so, and that's worth something, but, and mustard seed, yes, that's being tried too, but whatever you grow, if that is effective in absorbing radiation from the soil, we have to then deal with that plant, so, and then they're binding agents the light that are being used, but I myself don't know anything that people are placing very firm. Well, I think has a good chance of being reliable. But if others know more about these experiments, I'd be glad to hear.
Just to follow up on the discussion here, I think it's important to understand that radioactive materials are highly unique in that regard, is that you don't clean up radioactive materials. It's not, you move them around. You absorb them, and concentrate them, and move them somewhere else because they are radiotoxic. In other words, their properties are due to their radioactive properties themselves, and these properties are really a function of their half-lives and how they interact biologically in the biosphere. And so there is no, unfortunately, there is no sort of magic or silver bullet that will somehow, some mushroom will somehow soak this up and you can move it. It's really, you have to make terrible social decisions that have to do with environmental triage and triage involving human beings.
Yeah, in fact, I just learned, I always thought this word, the Japanese word for decontamination, josen, is peculiar, and I learned that it's not a very old word. It's the first character, the Sino-Chinese character is, Sino-Japanese character is remove, and the second character is contamination. But before this was used as josen, it's like snow removal. Well, snow, at least pre-Fukushima, is very different from radioactive contamination. So you can see that the very language that's circulating in society is straining to accommodate and somehow make bearable this new unbearable reality.
Yeah, that sort of addresses my question. Could you address the way the language, culture, and the humanities, the arts, your specialty, have been brought to counter the lies that engineering and science have been used to cover up? Is that?
Well, I think engineering and science are really indispensable too, and I don't think
I didn't say they're not indispensable, but they've been used to distract people from the humanity that's been put at stake.
Well, I think it's complicated because the Japanese government's recovery campaign, solidarity, bonds campaign, my heart, your heart, that's a humanistic campaign too. I think it's a crock up, you can be humanistically covering up as much as you can be scientifically. There's no guarantee that one discourse or practice or another is going to force you, is going to compel you to be more accurate and honest.
I was thinking of perhaps poetry or art that has come from...
I think art and poetry can be deceptive too. They don't have to be, but neither does science have to be deceptive. They can both be deceptive.
And you haven't seen that, you've seen both in Japan?
Sure. And it's very hard when people come, a 100-year-old woman has written her haiku or waka about, how don't let even your hearts be washed away by the tsunami. And you say, okay, you're 100 years old and you're well cared for by your secure middle-class grandchildren, great-grandchildren, people living on the ground, may not find it so easy to keep their hearts from being washed away. So I feel that it's a delicate thing that we have to keep our eyes open and our heart's eyes open, and we need everything, brain, heart, we need it all.
One final question from Angela. It's a short one, she promises. Well, what were you going to say,
How is Japan managed with only 2 of 54 reactors?
Well, isn't that a great mystery? Well, first of all, I mean, it is true that fossil fuels have had to be relied on more. That's for sure. It's also true that Japanese citizens have gone on incredible campaigns to conserve. You know, they've really sweated out the summers because they want to produce the government and the power companies wrong, that they can't survive the summer without their air conditioning on all the time. There's that. And I don't, with colleagues and I maintain an Atomic Age website, University of Chicago, where we post Japanese and English language materials. Very interesting article recently that some of you may know about the German concern Aeon, Aeon probably, complaining that with Germany's new policy, the wind energy had gotten so cheap that utility prices were falling down, that they were going to have to report a loss to their stockholders. And that really made me wonder how, if we're not, here's one thing I hope for, is I would like good energy economists who don't take nuclear energy as a necessary part of the mix to begin with, to start to do. We see signs of that in Japan. I would like to know the truth about what power mix is necessary, what happens to society, and I guess we'll learn some of that tomorrow, but really from an economic point of view, success is the term. Anyway, Japan has managed, and I'm sure that has really upset and panicked the authorities as well.